Welcome to the Hawkins Observer, a podcast where two half-lifelong friends recap and analyze every episode of Stranger Things as we prepare for the release of the final season this November.
As always, we'll give you a scene by scene recap, discussing the plot and developments, as well as sharing our thoughts, memories, and reactions.
Today, we'll pick up where we left off at Steve's house party. We'll learn more about the weirdo and are given even more questions to ask, like, who is this girl anyway? What is going on at the Hawkins labs? What happened to Barb? And for crying out loud, Hopper, why didn't you call Marissa back?
So kick back your lazy boy and join us for season 1, episode 3, Holly Jolly.
Holly Jolly. So the little girl's name's Holly. I don't think I
Holly
mentioned
Wheeler.
that yet. And it's Christmas time, so Holly Jolly.
Clever.
Nice. So here's the first scene of episode 3. Good news, Barb's still alive, but she's spitting up something. It looks sickly. She looks sickly and bloody. One of the lenses in her glasses is broke, so she quickly throws them off and says hello. And we soon learn that she's in the bottom of Steve's pool, but instead of water, the pool's surface is covered by the same weird growth we saw in the laboratory. The same particulate is floating in the air. She yells for Nancy, but only hears a strange version of her own echo, and she's not alone. Cut to Nancy and Steve continue to make out. Cut back to Barb. She's feeling her way around the pool. I imagine she can't see very well without her glasses, but she's feeling around the inside of the pool looking for a way to get out. She finds the pool ladder, starts to climb out as she starts to scream for help. And whatever is in the pool pulls her back down as she screams Nancy's name one last time. And then the opening credits roll.
Jeez. This is the first real glimpse we get of the other side. Whatever we don't
Mm-hmm.
know, whatever we don't know is over there. Barb is a pioneer in terms of our visualization of what this kind of alternate side is, with the viney kind of things we saw in the lab, and clearly it's not real life, because she's yelling. Obviously Nancy can't hear her. I'm not sure that she could have heard her anyway.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, there's a weird echo. You've got this snowing. It's clearly some sort of alternate universe, but is similar to the real world in the sense that it's the same location, the pool, the house, everything's the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first glimpse we get of what that looks like as Steve and Nancy are um, upstairs. Nancy compromising her morals probably, but
Mm-hmm.
Barb is reaching out for her help. And not only is Nancy not hearing her because she's in her own world, but Barb's in another world too. So, yeah, as the credits roll, everybody is reeling from what the last, 30, 60 seconds were that we saw with Barb. Scary scene, man.
Right. So the similarity between this situation Barb's in and the lab is that, stuff is in the air. But I just thought of this. When we see those first couple scenes in the lab and there's the wall of growing something, some sort of alive organism wall, I wonder when they come down the elevator in the lab and step out, are they actually in what we'll find out is called the upside down? Or are they just so close to this giant portal that they're actually still in the lab in our world, not where Barb has somehow got to, but in the lab, are they still in our world, but they're just so close to this giant opening that it looks like where Barb has found herself?
That's the impression I get, that there's a rift in that wall and some of it has leaked out. Like they've contained it, but yeah, I don't get the impression that they're actually on that side. We do see later on, either this episode or another one, where somebody goes to the other side, but
Mm-hmm.
got the impression that they're in our world. They're just so close to it that they're experiencing some of
I
that
can't,
leak.
I can't, I can't believe I'd never questioned that until just now. Like, other thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, no, I mean it's quite the opening between the bedroom scene and Barb's frantic yelling. I mean, that's quite the contrast.
You got two people sucking face, and then you get a really quick view of something without a face. Like,
Yeah,
woo!
throws you
It's
right into it, and it really does pick up where episode two left off. Like we literally leave Steve and Nancy in the room, and then episode three is just boom right there back in the room.
Yep. After the credits, we let's see, cut back to Nancy, who's sitting on Steve's bed. Steve's asleep, and she says, "See you tomorrow." And he doesn't even wake up. He kind of just goes, "Oh." So Nancy walks outside, and it turns out it's still night. So I'm not going to guess how much time has elapsed. I don't want to elaborate on that. Um, she thinks she hears a noise. What's that? And then she just quickly leaves the pool area. And that's that scene.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's interesting to put Nancy immediately at the pool where we just saw Barb kind of fall from the ladder, or get
Mm-hmm.
pulled down from the ladder to really nail home that idea that it's close, but it's not, we might be putting the pieces together between what we learned last episode when 11 flipped over the board, you know, to say, Will's hiding and the Demogorgon and
Mm-hmm.
those wheels are starting to turn of like maybe this is some sort of alternate dimension. And then obviously scared for Nancy too because she hears some noise and we're like, is she gonna be next? Yeah. And
Uh,
how kind of Steve to really give Nancy the proper send off.
oh,
Steve
so much to say
Harrington.
about that. So from there, we cut to Nancy's house, and she's quietly trying to sneak in through the front door. And then lights flash on, and there's mom. Uh, she's upset because she's been waiting for her. She's like, "You're past curfew," and Nancy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Some of my friends wanted to go get some food after the vigil." And her mom's upset because she didn't even like, why didn't even Nancy call to say that? And Nancy lies again and says, "Oh, I just didn't realize how late it was." And before she can walk upstairs to go to bed, her mom goes, "Whose sweatshirt are you wearing?" And she's like, "Steve's." So that's actually one of the few truths she tells in this whole interaction. And mom goes, "Oh, so Steve your boyfriend now?" And Nancy's like, "What? No." And then again, a good mom moment. She just tries to level with Nancy and says, "Nancy, you can talk to me, whatever happened." And with a very distraught looking face, Nancy lies one more time and says, "Nothing happened."
Yep. Yeah, you can certainly sense the fear in Karen's voice that they don't have cell phones to just be texting and checking in all the time. And it's like, I should have called, but who knows how late it actually is. I mean, it could be
Right,
midnight, it could be 2 a.m., and Karen's just been waiting up, probably panicking for her, and really no other thing to do. I mean, you can't just go drive around.
right.
Um,
We're not
so
told what time it is. That's a good
yeah,
point.
it's just really late.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Nancy is obviously hiding everything, but you can see it in her face. She gets surprised by her mom noticing her sweatshirt, and she doesn't have a lie on deck for that. You can see it in her face. She's taken aback by that question and realizes if I don't say something really soon, it's going to be obvious I'm lying. So I'll just say Steve because
Yeah.
I can weasel my way out of that by saying it was cold and he gave it to me. But like, yeah, she got caught there. I think Karen now knows something more is going on between Steve and Nancy than she's letting on. And I think it makes
Uh-huh.
Karen really sad that she gives her daughter the opportunity to tell the truth by saying, You can talk to me, whatever it is that you are going through or what's happening or what happened tonight, you can tell me. And it breaks her heart that Nancy just puts the wall up and goes
Yep.
right upstairs. Like, essentially get out of my life, mom.
Sure. She could have, I mean, it could be that maybe mom really is like naive and thinks that maybe the vigil really was emotional and Nancy just doesn't want to talk about it, or mom is getting wise, like you said, to the scene and realizing there's something
Yeah.
more going on with Mr. Harrington.
I think her acknowledgement of Steve, Nancy's acknowledgement of Steve confirms her mom's suspicions.
Right. The next morning, we're at the Byers house, and Jonathan is awakened to the sound of his mom trying to talk to Will, essentially with lamps near Will's bed. And and his mom's like, he's trying to talk to me through the lights. I know it. Just watch. And Jonathan's like, Mom. And sure enough, like one does kind of flicker. She's like, Did you see that? And Jonathan's like, Oh, we're having a problem with the electricity. That's it. And she's like, I know he's here. We just need more lamps. Jonathan's like, Stop this, Mom. He's lost. People are looking for him. And like he looks kind of like he's worried that she's going out of her mind. And then she apologizes to him, I think somewhat falsely, just to get him to leave her alone for a little
Yeah.
bit, because she can tell Jonathan doesn't believe her. So Jonathan says, Get some sleep. I'll make some breakfast.
Yeah, that's a heartbreaking scene because you believe Joyce. I think we're supposed to believe Joyce that she's on to something based
Mm-hmm.
on what we've seen so far. But at the same time, we kind of sympathize with Jonathan really being concerned for his mom. Like
Yeah.
you're going down a path that will lead you to, something bad. You're going psychotic or crazy. You're having these hallucinations. John, we're believing both of them. We believe Joyce might be onto something. We also believe Jonathan is really concerned about his mom. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
hard scene to watch from a relational standpoint where they're both extremely sad for what's gone on.
Mm-hmm.
We believe Joyce is onto something, but we also sympathize with John. Man, that's just yeah. And then the light flickering, we as an audience go, yes, yes, you
Get it.
know, but Jonathan's not now Jonathan's being the one that we're pleading with to get it.
Yep. It's an interesting idea that uh, maybe it was just an electrical haywire. But if it actually was Will trying to send a message, perhaps at that exact moment he was in a lot of danger, and whatever it takes for him to flash the lights on the other side or wherever he is, he really couldn't do it right then and there, even knowing that Jonathan was there. He couldn't do a lot because maybe he was actually in a lot of danger at that moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
From there, we cut back to the boys are in Mike's basement. Uh, Elle is playing with the walkie-talkie. They have a plan. It's to tell their parents they're staying after school for AV club so they can begin Operation Mirkwood. And Lucas, again, he's so skeptical and he goes, do you seriously think the weirdo knows where Will is? And Mike's like, trust me on this. Like, okay, trust me. Then they're like, okay, what supplies do we have for Operation Mirkwood? So Lucas provides all these practical things, and I like twice he comments, he's like binoculars from Nam,
From Nam.
and maybe a knife from Nam. Like obviously his poor father is probably in Vietnam. And then we cut to Dustin, who's just brought food, which is really funny. They kind of give him a hard time, and Dustin's like, "We need sustenance for this operation." Uh, oh, and Lucas is also really proud that he's brought uh, a slingshot, which Dustin calls it that. Lucas corrects him and says, it's wrist rocket. Wrist rocket sounds a lot more tough. It's a wrist rocket. Dustin's like, Are you really going to take out a Demogorgon with a slingshot? And Lucas corrects him, It's a wrist rocket. And then, second, the Demogorgon's not real. But if something is out there, I'm going to blind it. So Lucas is excited use his weapon against whatever's out there. But then Dustin rightfully questions why do they need weapons when they have L's superpowers? Lucas, then the skeptic, questions L's actual ability. Lucas is like, she only shut one door. And then Dustin's like, okay, let's test her. So Dustin goes and gets I believe it's a Star Wars replica ship, and holds it in front of Eleven and tells her, concentrate, okay, make this thing float, essentially, okay. And then Dustin opens it and it just drops to the floor. And Dustin's like, okay, let's try again. And he holds it in front of Eleven, like, okay, focus, make this thing levitate, and it just falls to the floor again. She's got a look on her face like it was really funny, that look.
Yeah.
Uh, then lastly, Mike's mom yells, it's time for school. And then Mike says to Eleven, okay, meet us at the power lines at 3:15, 3:15. And Eleven's not even quite sure what time is at this point, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Mike takes off his watch, puts it on Eleven's wrist, and says 3:15.
Yeah. Some, I mean, my favorite. Well, let me ask you this. When you were a kid, maybe around their age, 10, 11 years old,
Uh-huh.
did you have friends that you played around your property with or their houses with like pretend or make believe or like, did you play Army or anything
Yeah,
like that?
not exactly, because I grew up in an extremely rural area. And thankfully, I had one neighbor. He was only like a year younger than me. So I had one kid that I always played with. But I don't remember we never played with like GI Joes. I don't think maybe we played a little bit with Matchbox cars or something. We mostly just played outside. Like, I don't know. We played kickball and built a tree house, and that's all I remember.
Yeah, we had it. Yeah, we did a treehouse thing too. I lived in more of a suburban neighborhood, like probably where Mike and Lucas are growing up. So we had neighborhood friends that we'd play with. We played a lot of sports, but we also would do, when I was maybe younger than them, we would do pretend make believe things where we would set up, a wrestling ring and we would pretend like we were WWE wrestlers, or we would we had slingshots or like little, Nerf guns or something, and we would
Hmm.
pretend to, hide and have a fort and like play, kind of enemy army thing. So this
Hmm.
scene definitely brought that feeling of being a kid and have, except they have now in their minds and probably in reality a real reason to be arming up for a fight. And I love that Dustin's solution, he's just as serious about what he brought as Lucas is with what he brought. And it's like Pez and Smarties and Pringles and
All the 80s candy.
yeah, and he's like, what? It's just as important as what Lucas brought.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Dustin's naivete to like think that Eleven can just garner her powers on demand. He is kind of indignant that Lucas isn't understanding what Eleven actually did. Because he's
Hmm.
like, she shut one door. And Dustin goes, yeah, with her mind.
Mind.
That's insane. Um, so yeah, and I did have a thought at one of the times I watched it that 11, because Mike said, "Do you know the power lines?" And 11 was like, "Yeah,
Mm.
I know what power lines are." Of all the things
Ah.
she doesn't understand, all the questions she asked about friend and promise and how, she just looks super weird at everything in Mike's house. When Mike asked her about the power lines, she's like, "Yeah, I know what you're talking about."
I didn't catch that.
And maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's just convenient for the writing to just not have to explain everything all the time. Or it's just that she's from Hawkins Lab, which is an energy producing kind of lab, and maybe she has some familiarity with electric power lines.
Mm.
Um, but she's pretty agreeable to like, yes, I'll meet you there at
Yeah.
3:15. And yeah, their plan is in place.
Yeah. We cut to a classroom where Barb's seat is empty. And Nancy asks the classmate, like, hey, do you know where Barb is? And this snarky classmate goes, shouldn't you know where Barb is? Like, why would I know? You're her friend. Why don't you know where Barb is? And Nancy looks quite worried.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the sheriff and his two deputies. This is an interesting scene. The sheriff and his two deputies pull up to the Hawkins lab, and on their way to the not toll booth, but like the gate where that's the armed gate, you hear them saying like the lab is nicknamed Emerald City. It's rumored. One of them says it's rumored to make space weapons, possibly to fight the Russians.
The
And Hopper,
Ruskies.
the Ruskies, yeah. And as Hopper pulls up to the gate, a guard steps out of the booth, and Hopper just casually says, "Hey, we're here for a tour." The guy's like, "We don't give tours," and uh, and he's like, "How about just to look around?" And he's like, "Well, you got to get clearance from Rick Schaefer from the Department of Energy," and so Hopper tries to level with them, and basically is like, "We have a reason to believe that this missing kid, snuck in there." And Hopper's like, I've got press beating me down. I've got a worried mom. He's like, and Hopper says, I know the kid's not in there, but I've got to check off this box. Can you
Yeah.
speak to your boss and just give us 10 minutes tops? It's interesting that he's police and he's getting, like, he's local, but he's still law. And he's getting such pushback from that gate guard.
Yeah, I love this scene because again, it shows you Hopper's abilities as a cop. He's trying to talk his way into this place, knowing
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not within my jurisdiction.
Sure,
Um, to whoever owns it or whoever's jurisdiction it is, we don't know. But you get the impression that he knows I can't just drive in here. Or maybe he is
sure.
surprised by the pushback. We don't really know that. But either way, it's interesting to watch Hopper kind of work his charm. He takes his hat off and sets it on the dashboard and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
look, Patrick, you and I, I know the kid's not in there, but I gotta check off this box. So yeah, and you can tell the guard probably sympathizes with him. Like, I look, me too, but it's just above my pay grade to let you in here. And Hopper, you know, we don't really know what happens right then. But it's also interesting, I thought, that when they're pulling around the corner and they see the lab in the distance, we see it through the dash or through the windshield. They're
Mm-hmm.
familiar with it, which is a question
Mm-hmm.
we had back in episode one, which is like, what level of familiarity does the town have with the lab? Because we don't really, get any indication as to if anybody even knows about it or if they do. But it's funny when the deputy says, "I heard they make space lasers in there and blow the Ruskies to smithereens." So there's some sort of lore, at least
Uh-huh.
with law enforcement, and we suspect maybe more with the town that people know a little bit about the lab, and there's
Mm-hmm.
rumors surrounding it and everything. So it has this kind of, mystery surrounding it when they pull up. But
I guess it
yeah,
makes sense that, if there is a federal or a national government building, it makes sense that local county sheriffs or city police can't just do what they want at a federal building just because it happens to be in their town. So I sit corrected. That kind of makes sense where the guard has doesn't have to give them any leeway or permission. Like,
yeah.
I guess
Well, I
that
think
makes sense.
the guard might also be thinking, you're law enforcement, you're the sheriff in the town, you're the chief of police. Certainly you understand the chain of command. So if you want to investigate here, I'm not asking you something out of the ordinary for you to get clearance from
Right,
somebody. Like, you,
right.
as law enforcement, you know how that works. And so he might be a little bit more suspicious of Hopper and the deputies knowing that they haven't done that.
Yep.
Um, and it kind of shows maybe the little small town cop attitude of like, I just want to look around for 10 minutes. And it is interesting that he asked for a tour at first. Like he's just a civilian who's interested in what's
Yeah.
going on there.
I'm
Yeah,
here
but
for
it's
the
the
two.
first time the Hopper comes kind of face to face with the lab, and we really hope in that scene that we get to see inside the lab with Hopper from
Mhm.
that perspective.
We don't know right away because we cut to Elle home home alone, essentially, in the basement still. And this is a great scene because she's by herself and she's making the Star Wars ship float with her mind.
with no effort.
No effort. And then she loses interest and it just quickly drops out of the sky like, it was too easy. So she walks upstairs. She starts to look around the house. She tries the lazy boy again. Then she picks up the phone and listens to the dial tone. Like, well, that's weird. And then she soon becomes fixated on the TV. Eventually, she sees a Coke commercial, and then she
Mhm.
has a flashback. In this flashback, we see she's back in the lab, sitting at a table by herself. People are watching her through a observation window, and we understand that she essentially crushes an empty Coke can with her mind control. After she does that, it looks like it's for the first time. She reaches up to her nose and she notices she has a nosebleed. Looks like it's the first time she's noticed this.
Yeah.
But then she looks at Dr. Brenner, who she calls Papa, and he just smiles at her like he's proud of her for doing that and getting a nosebleed. She opens her eyes and she's back in Mike's house and she turns off the TV. She's obviously a little shaken by what she remembers.
Yeah, and when that flashback starts, you can see the camera pan down from her face, kind of from behind the TV, and
Mm-hmm.
she looks really distraught as the
Mm-hmm.
flashback happens. So we're
Mm-hmm.
given an indication of this flashback is a negative thing for her,
Mm-hmm.
um, where she's not just remembering something that happened, she's experiencing a bit of a trauma
Yeah.
in seeing this Coke can on the commercial. And it's a juxtaposition between the happy ad music on the commercial,
Right.
try Coke today, and the kind of sterile, lab. She's wearing this like net thing on her head with all these diodes on it
Mm-hmm.
and probes and stuff. And so um, yeah, just we feel sad for her that she's kind of being forced to perform. Um, and then we're impressed by seeing her actually do this thing with the Coke can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just a really important piece of history to 11 that is brought on by this. And then when it flashes back to her, it could just be the way they filmed it, but it almost seems like while she was having a flashback, the TV was like glitching. And then
Oh,
when she comes
interesting.
back from it, the TV kind of resets back to the
Mm.
commercial. Almost like her
Mm.
having a flashback was actually interfering with the electricity in the TV. And again, I might just be reading into that, but I noticed that a couple times
Yeah.
um, when she's
Am
having that.
am I reading into it too much to think that this might have been her first miracle or mind control exercise that it accomplishes it? Because her reaction to seeing blood, she looks shocked. Like, so do you
Yeah.
think that maybe her was her first time accomplishing that type of mind control?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting point. We're not given that, but you're right. She does seem surprised by the nosebleed, and it's certainly the first we see of it
Mm-hmm.
um, in the lab. Obviously, we don't know how much time we lapsed back to in that. Was it right before she escaped? Was it 2 years ago? We don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but yeah, it's the first thing we see her do in the lab, like actually successfully perform. Because up to this point, I think you might correct me if I'm wrong. What we've seen her do in the lab is fail at things or not be able to do it, and they drag her away or whatever.
Yeah. I I'm even though I'm 3 episodes in. Wait, spoiler to the spoiler. Has she already killed the two guys? Was that the end of last episode?
That's a flashback coming up.
Oh, got that. Then
That'll be the
yes.
next flashback we come to, though.
Then the Coke was significant. Sad since it's such a happy beverage. We cut to Joyce hauling a box of Christmas lights into her living room, and she starts just tacking them up to the wall, stringing them everywhere. And she runs out before she thinks she has enough lights. So she runs out of lights. I love that even their dog kind of looks at her like she's gone crazy. The
Yeah.
dog kind of whimpers like, "Are you all right?"
He's sensing the
Uh,
different energy in the room for sure.
yeah. Then it quickly cuts back to her place of employment. Christmas song is playing, and at the checkout counter, she's unloading many, many boxes of Christmas lights. Uh, and another new phone, but this time it's a what's called a cordless phone. And her boss briefly protests just by saying Joyce, and she exasperatedly just replies, "Just ring me up, Donald."
Yeah, she's not going to go through the whole rigmarole that she did the first time with the phone,
Right.
asking him for the advance. She's so over all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just box after box after box of lights. Actually, just stacks of boxes after stacks of boxes of these lights.
Yeah.
And we're not entirely sure what she's doing other than just following through on we need more lamps. I
Mm-hmm.
think we think that she thinks if I just put more electrical receptacles in my house, I'll have a
Mm-hmm.
better chance of being able to communicate with Will. And Christmas lights are just an easy, cheap way to do that without buying a full lamp. And yeah, her exclamation to Donald is just like, I'm not going through any sort of conversation about this. I just want you to ring me up so I can get out of here. It's so
And
funny.
and perhaps she chose that cordless phone in hopes that if Will calls or something calls, there won't actually be that direct line to fry
Yeah,
it. Maybe the cordless phone will be
yeah.
the telecommunication device she needs to hear whatever's happening this time without
And
getting fried.
actually, cordless phone is probably way more expensive than the corded phone that she bought the last time.
Oh
And
yeah.
all of these boxes of lights, dozens of boxes of lights. She's not concerned about money anymore. She's just so desperate at this point. You can see the desperation growing in her scene by scene as we
Yes.
see her stringing up the lights and then kind of rashly going through the store and barking at Donald. And she's just reached a new level of desperation.
Yeah. We cut to Hopper. Uh, they're looking. Looks like he's made it to the other side of the fence because he's looking into like a culvert or a pipe that leads away from Hawkins, insinuating like maybe this is how our kid snuck in here. But then the security detail who's been assigned to him says it's not possible that kid snuck in here with as many cameras as we have, all the guys on, security detail. He's like, nobody breaks in, certainly not a kid. Cut to, oh, Hopper asks about security footage. Guys, the guy understands, like, if that's so, Hopper wants to see it. So we're then inside the building. Hopper casually asks, "What do you guys do here?" Uh, and the security, his escort's like, "I'm the wrong guy to ask." And Hopper's like, "Something about the Russians?" And then one of his deputies like, "What about space lasers?" Hopper's like, "Don't listen to him."
It'd be like if Dustin grew up to be a deputy.
That's a good
That's the
point.
deputy we get.
Well, the security, the his escort says, Dr. Brenner's in charge. Like he's the one who really knows what's going on here. He takes them to the security room where they start reviewing footage. Looks, they don't see anything. Boring footage. Nothing happens. It's over, and Hopper goes, "Is that it? Is that all the footage?" And the escort security guy's like I said, if we would have seen him. So we're after that, we're back outside with Hopper and his deputies walking towards their vehicle. And Hopper says, "Do you guys remember anything about that night at the search party?" And they're like, "Yeah, we had to cut short because it was raining." And Hopper's like, "Did you see any rain on that security tape?" They're like, "No." And Hopper's like, "Not sure what's going on in there, but they're lying." Woo! He caught him.
Yeah. Yeah, you get the weird sense from this guy, whoever it is they sent out to meet with Hopper, that he's not telling the full truth from the very beginning. Just I don't know, you just get the sense that he's not being forthcoming
Yeah.
He's not willing. He doesn't seem like he's cooperating. Right? He's like, no kid could have gotten in here. I'm not even willing to kind of go along with your theory, you
Yeah.
know? And then we see the wheels turning in Hopper's mind too when they mention no kid could have gotten in here because there's all the security cameras. And he's like, those cameras, you keep the tapes. And then even when they're inside, it is a little surprising that he mentions Dr. Brenner, the escort mentions Dr. Brenner. It seems
Yeah.
like maybe you shouldn't just give away the name, the real actual name of the guy who's in charge of everything.
That's true.
It's obviously to our benefit
Ah,
as an audience that he does, but it's
yeah,
kind of
that's interesting.
surprising. But then even when they're watching the tapes, Hopper confirms with him verbally, this is the night of the 6th and 7th, right? Because
Hmm.
he's noticing it right away. And
Uh,
give the guy the opportunity maybe to say, "Oh no, sorry, we grabbed the wrong day," or but he wants him on the hook and saying, "Yes, this is the 6th and 7th." Um, so then when he figures it out later with his deputies that um that couldn't have been from the 6th and 7th because it was raining so hard in the storm. There's no lightning, there was no rain, it was just a clear night.
hmm.
That one of his deputies asks, "So what are you thinking?" Like he's not he understands the Hopper's question, but he's like, "What is that leading you to?" And he's, "I
Yeah,
don't know, but they're lying." And you can see he's like, "Okay, I'm honing in now on where we're gonna continue the search. We're not just gonna keep looking for, clues and friends and people who've seen stuff. We're gonna chase this trail with Hawkins Lab until we hit a dead end. Because right now, I have a reason to believe that something else is going on here than what we initially thought."
absolutely. Uh, we cut to what looks like a giant fan, and then we realize it's inside the lab. This could actually be happening at the exact moment that Hopper's there, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
But
because it zooms in on there's like a vent pipe thing
yes,
that comes out right next to where they parked, and
yep.
it kind of zooms in on that and goes down. So I think you're right.
So it's Dr. Brenner inside, and he's watching as men in their hazmat suits, they're lowering and bolting essentially a winch to the ground, big bolts, and they're installing this winch in front of the wall of. I got to come up with a good better name for this wall. It's one of the most bizarre things you can see in on TV, like this creation.
Yeah,
There's light behind it. There's
looks like
sound
a
coming
portal.
from it. A portal, a fleshy, mucusy, just the weirdest thing. I'm going to come up with a new name for it every episode from here on out
Yeah,
because it's just amazing to look at.
yeah,
Nothing really significant happens in that scene other than like, oh, it just raises the question: why are they bolting something to the ground? A winch. We cut to Elle back in the Wheeler's house. She's tiptoeing upstairs. She goes into Nancy's room and opens the music jewelry box and is a little disturbed by it at first, but opens it back up and watches the little or listens to the song and watches the little figurine. And she kind of looks like she's either saddened by it or maybe she's disturbed by this thing. And then she glances over at Nancy as a wall, a photo wall with like family and friends, and Elle's looking at all the pictures. And she also kind of, in my opinion, looks like she's sad to see all these smiling people because it's like she's starting to realize, like, oh, this is what happens in this real world or outside my lab. And everyone's like seemingly really happy out here.
yeah, yeah. I think she notices too how, in contrast to her, all the girls have pretty hair and makeup, and
Mm-hmm.
as she's going around Nancy's room, she's understanding the real difference between her feminine experience so far and Nancy's.
Yep.
And she even mentions Nancy being pretty, like we mentioned in the last episode. So the wheels are turning in her head too about, I think she is sad, but she's also, I think, too, just gaining more information, just learning, learning, learning.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, from there, we cut to Nancy's walking in the lunchroom and she joins Steve, Tommy, and Carol at their table. And Nancy says, "Hey, Tommy, when you left the pool party last night, did you see Barb?" And Tommy's like the biggest, well, ass in this scene. He's like, I literally don't know what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
as if he's already forgotten last night and doesn't know who Barb is. So then he's like, she was gone when we left. And then the uh Carol interjects that she left because she couldn't stand all the sounds she was hearing coming from Steve's bedroom. And then they really embarrass Nancy. Steve doesn't look embarrassed while they're embarrassing Nancy with the
Yeah.
sounds that were coming from the room. Um, Steve, he doesn't really take the whole situation seriously yet. He tells Nancy, "Hey, Barb's probably just skipping." Um, and Nancy doesn't look like she believes that. And for some reason, she looks up and out of the lunchroom into the hallway, and she and Jonathan briefly see each other, make eyes, and Jonathan scurries off like he does.
Yeah. I mean, we see Nancy's panic growing when
Mm-hmm.
Tommy doesn't, I mean, not that she expects him to, but Tommy doesn't say that he saw Barb. Steve kind of comes to Nancy's defense here after Tommy's second brushing off of
Mm-hmm.
Nancy's question. He's like, "Hey man, just answer her question."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, and then I think Steve's explanation of Nancy probably just skipping is kind of similar to Hopper's dismissal to Joyce in the first episode. Like, yeah, Will was probably just playing hooky from school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Joyce didn't buy that because she knows Will wouldn't do that. And in this scene, Nancy doesn't buy it either because she knows Barb wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
She wouldn't skip out from school. And so again, Nancy just kind of plays it off to them like, yeah, yeah, I'm sure that you're right. When
Yeah.
we know as an audience, she's not she doesn't buy that story and she's even more concerned.
Did you ever skip school?
Um
I know I never did.
no,
I never
well,
did.
I went to a school that was like 40 minutes from my house, so it would have been
Oh,
almost impossible for me to skip school.
yeah.
I mean, even
I
when I guess when I was driving, I probably could have, but I
uh
enjoyed school. I didn't really want to. I enjoyed
same.
school.
Yeah.
Mostly for the friends and the social. I wasn't an academic, but I was involved in too many extracurriculars to have a reason to want to skip school.
Fair enough. We cut to the boys. I think they're at recess and they're kind of looking around on the ground and they're looking for stones that Dustin can use in his wrist rocket. And then out loud, they start to wonder about Eleven. Like, is she a superhero or is she just a weirdo? Where did these powers come from? And then Lucas makes it really awkward because he accuses Mike of already being in love with Elle. And Mike's like, typical junior high young kid, like, shut up, I'm not in love with her, just tries to brush that off. But they're interrupted by the bullies we've already seen once before, these two dudes. And they're really hateful in this scene. Basically, the bullies are like, there's no use looking for your friend Will, he's dead. And as an aside, one of them's like, that's what my dad says. And then he's like, my dad said he's probably killed by some other queer. Super mean. So they, Mike and Dustin Lucas just try to walk away from the situation. And as Mike's walking away, he gets tripped by one of the bullies and he lands essentially chin first on the ground, cuts his chin with a rock. But the moment is that pain of hitting a rock with your chin, that moment's kind of redeemed because Dustin bends down and picks up the actual rock that Mike cut himself on and pats him on the shoulder and is like, look at this rock. Dude, you found this and it's a monster killer. It's like it's kind of a touching scene to go from being bullied to immediately being just like, you know, encouraged by your immediate friends. It was kind of a fun scene.
Yeah. The bullies being so insensitive to Will's
Yeah,
friends here
what the hell?
is just so heartbreaking. In the fact that like these bullies, at least the one kid, has a dad. I mean, obviously, the apple never really falls far from the tree. That the dad is like, "Oh yeah, that kid's dead," to his 10-year-old, 11-year-old son. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, you get the three boys fighting each other, especially Lucas and Mike. And Lucas is still in this scene, assuming that 11 is some level of a distraction. Still
Uh-huh.
probably not going to lead them to the solution.
And more
So
of a weirdo than a superhero.
exactly, them fighting. Then the bullies come and really give them grief about everything. But then in the last part of that scene, those three boys are back together as a team, encouraging, because Dustin's like, "This is a great rock," and then Lucas is like, "This is the monster killer," and they're
Yeah.
immediately back on the same page. So just in that 60 seconds of all of that, the boys go from them fighting to then experiencing the bullies, and now they're kind of back on the team again. But they
Yeah, that's a
found the
good
rock.
point. We cut to Jonathan in a dark room, and he's developing the photos that he took the night before when he was kind of being a creeper. It started with him looking for clues for his brother, but then he hears the scream. He starts taking pictures of the four kids at the pool party. There are five kids. Sorry, Barb. Five kids. Uh, then, so he's hanging these photos up to dry when someone else walks into the room. And when he sees her, and knows that she can see the photos, he immediately just starts taking the photos down, but it's too late because we're pretty sure she saw what's in the photos.
Kind of hard to defend Jonathan
Yeah.
in that
It,
scene. I'm not sure what of the photos we see in that scene later in this episode it's fully revealed, if not in this one,
mm-hmm,
what he took
mm-hmm.
pictures of. But as he's putting them up, we get the sense that like it's kind of
A little
creeper.
weird. A little
Yeah, I mean,
weird.
Jonathan, we're rooting for him in other ways, but in this one, it's kind of hard to defend what he was really doing there. And you
Right.
can tell he's panicked when the girl walks in and sees, and I mean, yeah. And actually, too, just a note about practicality, they probably weren't fully developed. He just ripped them down from like they weren't dry yet. So
Yeah.
later, when we see those pictures, we have to understand they might not be fully clear as they would have been if they were able to hang and dry as they were supposed to, because he had to rip them all down before they were
Oh,
ready.
that's true. Yeah. Um, we cut to the buyer's house, and Joyce has finished hanging all the Christmas lights. Uh, when there's a knock at the door, it's Karen Wheeler, Mike's mom, and she's brought a casserole. Joyce looks very disheveled, but she does invite Karen in as a sign of, I don't know, friendship. Poor ladies. From there, we cut to the front of the library, and Hopper actually recognizes the lady, like the attendant at the desk, and she quickly calls him out for being a jerk and not calling her back. So we quickly learn that they've had either a relationship or just relations. He sheepishly apologizes and then quickly cuts to, "You guys keep newspapers here, right?" And so he tells her, we cut to them like him saying, like, "Hey, we're looking for anything on the Hawkins National Lab." And she's like, "Shouldn't you be looking for that missing kid?" And he's like, "We are." So then he tells her, "Hey, you start with the Times and we'll start with the Post." It's kind of funny because it's like he gives her a command, like he just quickly deputized her. She's kind of like, "Who do you think you are to like tell me what to do in my own library?" But
Austin
assuming
walked
that she,
away.
assuming she did it, and then the deputy just kind of a second later looks at Hopper and goes, "The librarian?" And Hopper's like, when you're desperate or whatever, I don't know. They begin their search of all these stored newspapers, and they quickly begin to find headlines about the lab and things like there's alleged abuse. The lab's trying to block inquiries. This program has been exposed. Dr. Brenner was named a lawsuit. This lady named Terry Ives was somebody that's suing them. And she says that the lab took her daughter.
Yep.
What could that mean?
This is a really important scene
Very important.
to introduce the idea that something's going on at the lab. I mean, more specifically, I guess we always know that there's something going on at the lab, but um, gives us a little bit of a clue into maybe who 11 is.
Hmm.
I think that it's supposed to kind of at least tease that idea. Gives us a new person of interest is Terry Ives.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I found on Reddit where somebody had written out every word that was visible on all of those microfiche,
Really? I was going to ask
and
about that.
you summarized it really well. It's exactly what it is. There's one that's really important here that I wrote down. Um, After a district attorney's office declined to press criminal charges citing lack of evidence, local resident Terry Ives is not giving up her search for justice for herself and her daughter, and this morning filed a lawsuit against research scientist Dr. Martin Brenner and his staff. Miss Ives' suit seeks unspecified damages against Dr. Brenner and his facility, alleging physical abuse, sleep deprivation, malnourishment, and kidnapping. One of the very first was despite their legal obligation, the Hawkins lab, suspected of conducting extensive mind control experiments on unsuspecting human subjects, has managed to escape requests made by. That's the end of the thing we see, but we
Uh-huh.
expect that the end of that would be, even though they're legally obligated to, they've been able to escape requests made by whoever it is, the FBI or local law enforcement. They're always kind of being able to, every article gives some indication that they've been able to kind of slide their way out of
Yep.
giving an account for what actually happened. And Terry Ives keeps coming up as not giving up her fight
Yep.
in legal battles against the lab
Huh.
and Dr. Brenner specifically.
Like they're operating above or outside the law with whatever they're
Yep.
doing there. We cut back to the buyer's house where, you know, we learn soon that Karen has put the casserole in the oven, and so or the oven's preheating for their casserole. So Joyce tells Karen her excuse for all these lights is like, Will loved Christmas, so we thought it would make it feel more like he's home if we put up all these Christmas lights. Uh, it's a little excessive. Karen asks, "How's Jonathan? Like, how's he handling all this?" And Joyce is just like, "He's good at taking care of himself," which is an interesting answer. Um, then she says something about we're having electrical problems. Karen, again, Karen's very, very kind to people in her life. She goes, Ted and I are here for you. Like, again, she seems like she's a real nice person reaching out, not only their own kids, but the neighbors who brings a casserole. That's great. Uh, cut to, we see her daughter, Holly. She's the youngest of the three. And Holly's just kind of walking through the house and she's following the lights that are coming on and they're leading her to Will's room. And she steps into Will's bedroom and the lights are going crazy, like circling around her. And she looks like she's like dazed or like confused. I shouldn't say dazed and confused. Just one or the other. But the key thing in that moment is she doesn't look scared by all the flashing lights. She just kind of looks around like she's like, wow, what is this? Um, and as quickly as the lights go crazy, they go out, and we hear a very low growl. So the oven dings. We cut back to the kitchen, and we assume the oven's ready for the casserole. And Joyce goes, "Where's Holly?" And we cut back, and little Holly, still in Will's bedroom, walks right up to this wall where Joyce had seen something trying to break through. And before anything more serious can happen, Joyce runs in and says, "Hey," and grabs Holly, picks her up, and just very emotionally says, "She shouldn't be here." And then Joyce drills this little kid. She's probably like three. I don't know. She drills her with questions. "Did you see something?" And the little kid's like, "Yeah." "What did you see? What did you see?" And obviously, mom is a little like, "Why are you reacting like this to my kid?" And then Joyce quickly is like, Thank you for the casserole, but you need to leave. It's an intense scene.
Yeah, so scary too because Holly starts to see what Joyce saw. I mean, this time it's in
Yep.
Will's bedroom. I think the first time that Joyce sees it, I think it's in the living room. Is that
I
right?
can't remember either.
I
I
don't
can't
remember, but
remember
yeah,
either.
you start to see the wallpaper push out on Holly.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
think she walks up to that wall because that's where the sound is coming from, and she's just
Mm-hmm.
curious. It is
Mm-hmm.
interesting that she's not scared.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, uh, her seeing the lights and being kind of lured down the hallway to Will's bedroom, you have to ask the question, is it a coincidence that something is happening and Holly's just in the right place at the right time, or is whatever's on the other side kind of trying to lure her to,
Ooh.
is Will trying to communicate to her, or is the monster trying to kind of lure her? We don't know that, but we're asking those
Yeah.
questions.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, we also feel for Joyce that she's trying to get information because like this is what she set up the lights for. It's
Yeah.
purpose and something is happening. And so I think
And
she's rightfully scared that something would happen to Holly. So she's like, you got to go. And you got to go because I'm on mission here to find out more
yep.
from Will. If you're here, I can't do that. I can't
Yep.
communicate with the light of you and Holly are here. So yeah, I think she like we see too that she let her guard down just enough to let Karen in to kind
Yep.
of give up her dignity that thank you, I know that we need help, but
Yep.
it's just this little 10-minute, maybe less window until her reality snaps right back to her that she's got to find out what's going on with Will and kind of back to crazy world.
Yep. That's true. We cut to back to the school, and Nancy is on what's called a payphone. We have to explain all these things to the kids. I'm not going to. Nancy's on a payphone with Mrs. Holland, who's Barb's mom, and her mom says, did Barb come home last night? And mom's like, I thought she said she was staying with you last night. And Nancy lies, like, oh, I meant, did she come home this morning? She left some, because she left some books at my house. And mom's like, no. And Nancy, another lie, she's like, I just remembered Barb's at the library. And then her mom's like, Barb's mom's like, can you have Barb call me as soon as you find her? Nancy's like, sure. So, uh, so much lying.
Yeah.
Uh, there's you've got you've got Nancy's lying right now because she's lost somebody, and then you've got Dustin and Lucas and Mike lying because they're hiding a new person. It's a weird juxtaposition
Yeah.
of why are these kids lying right now, like the two opposite situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy now is, I mean, this is probably her last ditch effort to find Barb
Yep,
without her getting involved personally, physically. Like
yep,
her hearing Mrs. Holland on the other line was probably desperately hoping to say, "Oh yeah, Barb's sick" or something.
yep.
Um, so yep, where is Barb? I mean,
That would have
we
been
think we know where she is, but
that would have been a relief. Um, we cut to uh Nicole is the name of the girl who had walked in on Jonathan in the dark room, the photo lab, and she's with Steve and Carol and Tommy. And as Jonathan is walking by, and the four of them confront Jonathan, and I think Tommy manages to somehow steal Jonathan's shoulder bag, and he dumps out all of the photos onto the parking lot as Nancy's walking up at the same time, and they just start to call him like creepy, and he's like, I was looking for my Jonathan says I was looking for my brother, and they're like, nope, this is stalking, this is weird. And then they show Nancy the photos that he was taking, one of which is somewhat incriminating for what she was doing. And Steve's like, he's a pervert, it's hardwired into his who he is. And then he starts tearing up the photos, and they got his camera, and Jonathan's like, no, please, not the camera. And Steve implies that he's going to give it back, but instead he just drops it, breaks the camera. And he's like, "Come on, the game's about to start." And Tommy does a weird thing. He walks up to Jonathan as they're walking away to the game, and Tommy, and right in Jonathan's face, goes, "Boo." That was kind of weird. And then Nancy looks just super torn at what's just happened, seeing Jonathan's camera get broken and this picture is shredded. But she looks down and she sees photos of Barb sitting on the diving board. And she quickly picks up a bunch of those photos and just pockets them essentially and follows the cool kids on into I don't know what type of sports ball game they're going
Yeah.
to. It's fall, so probably the football sport game.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
and then the rest of the photos just kind of start to blow away.
yeah. I think it's basketball because it's mid-November.
Oh,
So
okay.
football season will probably be over, and it's early in the day. I feel like a basketball game would start more like 4 or 5 p.m. But
Thank God
anyway,
sports aren't the part of the plot. Ugh.
yeah, this one is hard because, like I said earlier, we kind of have to stop defending Jonathan in this one, where like he
Mhm.
took a picture of Nancy with her shirt off through the bedroom window. Like you can't do that no matter what your reasoning would be. And so we sympathize with Steve and these kids like, dude, this is not this is not okay. And so obviously we don't
Yeah.
like Steve breaking his camera,
Mm-mm.
but we kind of understand
Yep.
why. But I did think it's interesting that Nancy doesn't lash out. She doesn't join them in the mocking of Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when the other kids leave, she bends down to help him pick the photos up. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when she sees the picture of Barb amongst the pieces of photos. So she feels some sort of sympathy for Jonathan, or at least I don't think she assumes I'm going to see something about Barb, but she's just being kind. But when she does see the picture of Barb,
See, I thought it was the other way around. I thought that she was about to walk away and she just looks down at all these ripped up photos.
mm,
And I thought she only bent down because she sees the photo of Barb.
uh,
I don't know. But yeah, she's definitely torn about the whole situation.
yeah,
Like, just
yeah. And when she
awkward.
sees her picture for the first time, she does look at Jonathan with like a what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, this scene definitely propels the Barb storyline where it needs to be. With now Nancy has a picture in her, or at least part of a picture in her bag with Barb at the diving board.
The last time she was seen. Cut
Yeah,
to 11. She's at the power lines and she's reciting not 315. She's reciting 315,
315.
315, 315. And there's a fence there. And on the other side of the fence is a cat. And the cat's just growling at 11. And 11 looks very disturbed by this. And she has another flashback. In this flashback, she's back at the lab, the same type of headgear that we saw her wearing in the crushing Coke can scene. And she's focusing on a cat while crying. And the cat is like obviously disturbed by Eleven's energy or aura or something. The cat's just making weird, crazy sounds. And Elle cries and cries and takes the headgear off, like, I'm not doing whatever she was supposed to be doing. And then Dr. Brenner looks disappointed and she just shakes her head, no, she's not doing it. As soon as she shakes her head, no, we cut to the orderlies or whoever. They're dragging her back down the hall. She's screaming, no, Papa. They're screaming, or she's screaming, and they're just dragging her against her will. They throw her in the closet, and she's screaming, no. And before they can slam the door, she uses her mind to take both of them out. So, yeah, that's the scene I was thinking of earlier. So, the two, she throws one up against the wall, and another one tries to pull like a taser or a gun on her. I don't know which, but she snaps his neck with a thought. And in the midst of that carnage, Dr. Brenner just walks up and kind of steps over the bodies and looks into the closet where they were going to shut 11 in. And she looks exhausted and angry and scared and tired. She looks horrible. And he gently touches her head as she's just sitting there cowering and starts to sobbing. And once again, we have a one liner from Dr. Brenner. He just goes, incredible. I'm like, oh. so he picks her up and walks down the hall with her, and she kind of keeps crying and whimpering in his arms. Oh,
Oh man, this we see probably in full color what we expect happened to the guards at Benny's diner. Um, in that scene where that's
yep,
how she learned how to do that. And she probably didn't know. I mean, I think that she's probably being instructed to hurt this cat,
yep,
um, and
yep,
then refused to do it,
yep.
because she, at some level, maybe believes this cat to be innocent or that she
Mm,
shouldn't do that, some sort of moral compass. But then with
yep.
the orderlies who were throwing her in this closet, now we've seen this for more than once. This is not the first time she's been dumped in this solitary confinement chamber,
Yeah.
and she's not having it this time and ends both of them, or at least the second one. The first one she throws hard enough to like literally crack the tile wall,
Yeah.
like leaves a crater in the wall, and then
Uh-huh.
in the other one, and Dr. Bennard has no regard at all for these two guards
No,
and has a
no.
weird moment as he's walking down the hallway. We get this weird feeling that there's this tenderness between him and Eleven,
So
even
strange.
after the coldness of what we just experienced, that he's caring for her here. And maybe it's because she followed through with what he wanted her to do, just to
Right.
wrong it. Um,
Well,
but yeah,
just the
very,
fact that she calls him Papa, what's that tenderness about? Like,
yeah,
when did that start? Is he her actual father? Like, that's just weird.
yeah, we don't know any of that, but
We don't.
we watched a pretty remarkable scene, and he's again just interested in the outcomes.
Incredible. That flashback ends with the boys riding up, and uh, Mike's like, hop on. We only have a few hours, and they take off on their bikes. From there, we cut to Steve, Nancy, Carol, and Tommy, and they're hanging out in the hallway of the school, presumably right before the game starts. And then Nancy walks off, uh, and he's like, "Where are you going?" And surprise, Nancy throws out another lie. We need to have like a lie counter for Nancy. Bing,
Yeah,
bing, bing, bing,
yeah.
bing. So
She's like, I
Nancy
gotta wash
lies.
my hair.
Nancy's like, "Oh, I totally forgot. I told my mom I would do something with her." Like,
Yeah,
and then as she walks away, Steve's like, "What the hell's wrong with her?" And then one of them, Carol, Tommy, make the observation like, "What'd you expect? You're dating Mrs. Perfect." So
yeah. I really just think this scene is there to show that Nancy's kind of done with them. Um,
yeah. Well, and then she's got those pictures of Barb. Like,
yeah, she's
she's
got
probably
bigger
just,
fish to fry.
ooh,
Yeah,
like, what do I do with these photos now that I have them?
she's made a decision here where she's gonna prioritize her time.
Cut back to the boys. Now they're pushing their bikes, and it's kind of like Mike and Eleven walking together, and Lucas and Dustin walking together. And Elle asks, "Why did they hurt you?" And kind of points to Mike's chin. And Mike says a little white lie. He's like, "Oh, I fell." Blah, blah, blah. And she cuts him off like, "Mike, friends tell the truth." And then Mike's like, "Okay, I was tripped by some mouth breather named Troy." And I was like, "Mouth breather?" And Mike's like, "Yeah, a dumb person." And Mike, poor little kid, he's like, "I just didn't want you to think I'm a wasteoid," which I never use that word. "I didn't want you to think I'm a wasteoid." And Eleven's like, "Mike, I understand." And like Mike's taken aback by her either compassion or interest or care. And Mike's like, "Cool, cool."
Yeah, you know what wasteoid means. Awesome. Yeah, there's a developing friendship here. We've seen already Eleven be put in a situation where she has to trust Mike, and Mike follows through. He
Yep.
picked her up at 3:15. He pulls her out of the closet when he said he'd come back. Like Mike's shown
Hmm.
himself to be trustworthy, and Eleven's responding positively to it.
Yeah. We cut to Nancy walking up to Barb's empty car in the same spot from last night. She yells Barb's name, hoping to hear something. She sneaks back into the pool area to look around. And then while she's in the pool area, she hears some rustling at a distance or something. And so she goes into the woods to investigate this rustling sound. And then something runs right by her and she sees it, and it startles her to the point where she just bolts, just takes off running.
It's shot so well too, because we just get, I mean, we don't even get a glimpse. We just literally get like the blur,
A blur.
and
Yep.
we don't really know what she saw, though we think we do. And then as she runs away, it's almost like they're not using a steady cam, or it's not a very clean shot. She's running away.
Right.
It's like
Big
she's
time.
also running away from the production crew. Like the camera's kind of not able to track her perfectly, and it's just so well shot. And like
That's
reminds me
funny.
maybe other horror movies or something, but we think that she saw something and she's terrified. She runs
Yeah.
right
That's a
out. Yeah, she's really concerned that Barb's car is still there too, because that means Barb didn't leave. Barb would have just walked away.
ugh. Cut to the buyer's house. Uh, the dog helps for once instead of just questioning Joyce. The dog is helpful because he barks because the lights are starting to flicker, and they seem to be leading Joyce into the living room this time. So, like, she walks up to where the lights kind of dead end flicker, and she finds the power outlet on the wall where the electrical source for the actual lights would have been that were currently flickering. And so she plugs in a bundle of like unwrapped or just frazzled, Christmas tree lights, just a bundle of them, and plugs it in and starts talking to it. And immediately the lights light up to her voice. And she's like, "Oh, this is Will. This is him. He hears me. We're about to have a conversation." And so she's so just caught up in this moment, and she tells Will, "Blink once for yes, twice for no. Can you do that?" Blinks once for yes, and she's like, "Okay, good boy, good boy." And then so she asks Will the first question, "Are you alive?" One blink, yes. Then she goes, "Are you safe?" Blink, blink, no. And it's the most, I don't know what sound effects or it's a devastating sound and atmosphere when he says, "No, I'm not safe." And Joyce is just like so distraught. "I need to know where to find you. Can you tell me where you are, tell me what to do?" And then so she runs out of that little cupboard she was sitting in, and she cracks open a can of paint, and she begins to write the alphabet on her wall, one letter underneath one light.
We now confirm that Will is alive and that he's because to this point, we have a lot of suspicions that Joyce is right in thinking that he's alive, hearing his voice on the phone and all this stuff, and the lights flickering in the house, her seeing the light flash. She thinks Will's able to communicate through the lights, but now we see it confirmed that she says,
Mm-hmm.
"Will, is that you?" And it flashes once. And it's like,
Yep.
there can be no doubt anymore. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, is Joyce's experience. We still
Right.
may have some suspicion that Joyce is experiencing some sort of crazy psychotic episode, but
Hallucinations. Yeah.
it is Joyce's experience, and it is really happening that she says, "Are you alive?" And he says, "Yes." "Are you safe?" And he says, "No." That she stops asking yes or no questions because she's so panicked. "How do I get to you? What should I do?" These questions that he can't answer with yes or no flashes. So she comes up with another solution. We're not immediately clear what it is, but we can guess that she's gonna try to communicate through the alphabet on the wall.
Yep. We cut to the Wheeler house. Karen is at home, and she's surprised. Nancy walks in. She's home early. Like, "How was the game?" Like, "You're home early." And she can almost immediately tell that Nancy, something's wrong. This time, Nancy tells the truth. Almost through tears, Nancy says, "It's Barb. I think something happened, something terrible." So finally, some truth comes out.
Yep.
We cut to back to the library where the chief and the one deputy are going over kind of what they've been reading, and the deputy is like, "I don't know, chief, this lady Terry Ives, she sounds like she's kind of crazy. She claims her kid was taken for LSD experiments." And then we figure out, you know, Brenner somehow involved, and the deputy again is like, "It's just some hippie crap." And Hopper started to go, "No, this is like CIA sanctioned research. There's hospital gowns in the photo, and that's like, what about that fabric we found on the culvert or the pipe leading towards the lab? Um, then they say maybe something happened. Maybe Will was in the wrong place at the wrong time and saw something he shouldn't have. It's a reach. It's a start. Then they run out of the front door of the library to the police truck, flip on their sirens, and speed off as the sun is starting to fade. Did they get a call? I can't remember. They must have got a
Yeah,
call on their
I think
dispatch radio.
I think they got a call on the radio. But this is a hard scene because we kind of again we want to believe Hopper is onto something because he's making connections here. We've seen him make connections in the past. He's always been right. But the deputies either he's thick and he's just not a very good cop,
Uh-huh.
or he's the kind of anti-conspiracy theorist. Like, come on, man.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We don't have to go down this rabbit trail of conspiracy theories. He said she's been discredited. So he's kind of taking whatever the stories are at face value, whereas Hopper is reading deeper into it, thinking that there's this, but he even says, I'm not saying there's a grand conspiracy. So he's aware of of how he sounds, but he is making some interesting connections between the hospital gowns in the photos and the fabric they saw at the culvert, and you know, a lot of things are tingling his spidey senses in a way that he's like,
Uh-huh.
let's go down this road. And his deputy's just not willing to go there. And he goes, I'm just work with me. I'm just asking you to work with me here. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, so this pleading, but then they get interrupted by a call. They run. I love this scene too, just from a practical sense. These two actors run out of the library down. We see this long shot of them running, busting through the library doors, running down the steps. Hopper, David Harbour, the actor, literally gets in the this Bronco or what Tahoe or whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
and I mean, by the time he shuts the door, he's already in gear,
Yeah.
squeals in reverse out of the parking spot, gets it in drive right now, and then just bolts down the street. And we see that whole thing in one long shot
Yeah.
of David Harbour really driving this thing like he stole it. And we don't know where it's headed, but the sirens and lights are going, and it's sunset, it's getting dark, dusk probably, and he's
Yeah.
headed somewhere in a hurry.
It makes me want to check eBay Motors or something to see if that same year and spec of SUV is out there. Because it just,
Yeah,
when you see, cars in movies like that, you're like, oh, that thing's so cool.
especially when you know the actor's actually driving it, because it can't be any other
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Uh, like you said, at first I was like, when the next scene, it's like, it's really dark already. Like, they made a mistake. Like, they're making this too dark. But I was like, oh, wait, it is November or December, sometime in there,
Yeah,
and the days are getting a lot shorter. So this whole episode really does take it essentially seems like it's taking place in real time.
yeah, it's
Like,
one day. Yeah,
because at this point, we just last time we saw the boys, they picked up Elle at 3:15, 11 at 3:15. They picked her up and they're riding away. And so we cut back to them, and now it's dark, and they've arrived at Will's house. Um, so we figure out like immediately because Mike's like, no, this is where he lives or lived, and but 11 insists, no, he's here, he's hiding here. So we realize they've been on bikes, somehow utilizing 11's direction to tell them where to go find Will. And so Mike's like, no, he lives here. Ellen says, no, he is here. And then Lucas again immediately doubts her, and Dustin starts to doubt her now. And Mike's like, okay, why did you bring us here? And Lucas is like, this is it. Let's just call the cops. And then they're actually interrupted by the sound of police cars, and like a squad or an ambulance literally go right past Will's driveway.
yeah. We. It's interesting that the boys, especially Mike's imagination is so willing to go with 11. We saw
Yeah.
it in the last episode. And here he's not. He's
Mm,
not willing to be like, okay, we're here. What does that mean? What do you mean he's hiding? He's not trying to kind of enter into what Eleven's trying to do. All three boys are just like, this is a dead end. What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah,
Even though her intuition led them there, this is the first time where all three of them now, Mike included, are like, this is nothing. This
yeah,
is a dead end. You've wasted our time.
right,
Um, and 11 for the first time feels betrayed by Mike because he's defended her and come to her, rescue and been
right.
trustworthy. Now she's like surprised. She doesn't know how to defend herself
Mm,
to say what she actually means or what she's actually experiencing. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't," she just doesn't say anything. You can just see she's really scared and kind of she feels looks like maybe she feels betrayed by Mike.
right.
Uh, but then Dustin's like, "Guys, guys." And that's when we see where probably where Hopper and his deputy were going because we
Y-
see those sirens and lights flying by the
Yep.
buyer's house. Probably
We
on some
cut
dirt country road, some state route that's going out to the outskirts of town.
we cut right inside to the house where Joyce has finished the alphabet and asked, like, baby, talk to me. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And Will spells using the alphabet she's painted, and underneath One Christmas Light, he spells out the words right here. And Joyce is like, "Oh, you're right here, but I don't know what that means. Like, how do I find you?
What should I
And
do?
what should I do? How do I find you?" And Will spells out RUN, run. And as soon as he spells that out, the lights flash, and from behind her on an exterior wall, the beast or whatever, it actually breaks through the wall. It makes contact with the inside of the house. Looks like the same monster that we saw in Barb's opening pool scene. And then she just, I don't know exactly where she runs at that point, but it looks like she runs further into the house. And right away, it didn't look like she ran to the front door. But yeah, the the monster is entering the house.
Oh man, terrifying, terrifying scene. We have this hope that she's going to be able to communicate with Will and find out some information and maybe get closer to rescuing him or finding him. But instead, she just puts herself right in the sight line. She's getting too close, probably.
Uh huh.
Now the monster is able to also, because she's communicating with Will through the lights, we think maybe the monster is also able to locate her through the lights. And so the monster's found her. She escapes somehow,
Yeah,
but
and
there's been a
Will
rift.
saves her. By Will spelling out "run," he kind of
Yeah,
saved her in that moment, knowing like Will can probably see the monster, sees that the monster, like you said, it's getting close. So Will's like, don't worry about me right now. You got to run.
jeez. What does Will know? What does Will know?
We cut to the boys they're just hauling butt, biking towards the sound of the sirens. We see Hopper. He pulls in where there's already a lot of police vehicles before he has even arrived. So lots of vehicles are there. There's an ambulance there. We realize that we're at the quarry. His other deputy is there that wasn't at the library, and Hopper kind of runs towards the lake in time to seeing them taking a body out of the water on a stretcher. And Hopper's like, "Oh God, please tell me that's not the kid." Immediately, very sad music starts to play. Hopper quickly turns around when he sees the body and just starts to walk away. Mike and the kids are peeking out from, I think, a fire truck, and Mike's like, "It's not Will, it can't be." Then Lucas, why is Lucas always the negative one? He's like, "It's Will, it's really Will." Of course, he said it really sad, but he's always saying the negative thing. Uh, Mike then gets very angry at 11 and basically just starts yelling at her. "You said he was alive. Why did you lie? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And then Mike runs off, and the boys are like, "Mike, where are you going? Where are you going?" And Mike just rides off by himself without 11, without Dustin, without Lucas.
These last two scenes are so confusing to us as an audience because in one scene we see Will communicating with his mom, and in this scene
The
we
very,
see a body that looks like Will being pulled from the quarry.
Yep.
And so I think our hopeful side thinks, wow, the lab is really going through some elaborate measures, but we're not given really any evidence that they are, because they really are pulling a body out of the
Yeah.
water that is wearing what Will was wearing. And so we have all these questions of, is that just a kid that's around the same age as Will was? Is it really Will, which would make Joyce psychotic? Or is Will actually alive? Joyce was actually communicating with him, and what is this body? But in all of that, we sense the humanity of Hopper thinking, "I am cursed because
Yeah. Here's
now
another
this
one.
is actually happening." And you know, Mike having the probably the most hope out of all three boys that
Hmm.
they're going to get close by following Eleven's intuition. And so I think that's probably why he reacts as strongly as he does, because Lucas especially has all along thought something very easily explainable has happened to Will, and this is
Yeah.
what it is. And Mike has held out the most hope, and he's the most disappointed and
Yep.
feels betrayed maybe by Eleven, that he trusted her to provide a solution that she didn't. But it's extremely heart-wrenching and sad, and just leaves us with so many questions. And it is just a very visceral kind of scene with all these first responders and personnel and a body and a stretcher and water, and it's
The
just
music too. The music
very
they
hard to watch.
chose was so
Yeah, the
dramatic.
Peter Gabriel song. It's such a great song, but
Yeah.
laid over top of this scene is really gut wrenching.
I can't remember what I was thinking. It's so long ago since I saw it or we saw it the first time. But I have to, like looking back, I have to imagine I was thinking, okay, Will's really a dead kid, and Joyce is experiencing something just paranormal, like, or maybe she really is crazy. Like at this point, I think I would have been able to go, she's either crazy or something evil is actually triggering the lights. It's not Will anymore. Like I feel like the first time I saw, I probably would have settled on, okay, kid's dead. Joyce is either mental or something's going on. That's
Yeah.
it's just been so long
Every
since we've seen it.
yeah. I don't remember what I thought either, but every option's on the table. We
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
And I do remember thinking, well, I can't stop watching now. Like this can't be the last episode I watch tonight. This is
yeah.
probably in the string of episodes we watched still that first night.
I would
Well,
imagine.
yeah, we were not going to stop watching now, especially because we have all these questions. So, um, but it's
Well,
extremely sad. It raises all these questions.
from Mike riding off without the group, we there's a couple quick cuts right here. A lot of back and forth cuts right here. Um, we quickly cut to Joyce is running down the road, so assumably running away from her monster infested house or down her driveway, and she almost runs into a car coming at her. It turns out it's Jonathan, and they just hug while this amazingly emotional music is playing. Then we cut to back to Mike, and he's made it home, and he runs into the house, and his mom is surprised to see him because she's sitting in the living room with Nancy and assumably Barb's parents. And Mike just runs up to his mom and is sobbing and crying and hugs his mom. Then we cut back to Jonathan and Joyce. They're still hugging as the sirens are coming towards them, presumably coming to their house. As the last lyrics of the song says, I think we could be heroes just for one day. And then it cuts to the credits.
Yeah. I do remember that we could be heroes just for one day, and thinking that's probably what's happened here is we have been led as an audience to believe that these kids are going to find out what happened to Will, or Joyce is going to find out what happened to Will. And all of this was just a false hope
Yeah,
that somebody was going to get close to a solution. Um, but yeah,
I,
we don't get that payoff here. We don't know what
I,
happened other than we've pulled a body out of a quarry.
I do like that they made the decision to, because as soon as they, we cut away from Jonathan and Joyce's hug and the sirens coming. We cut away to the credits with no music. And so it
Oh,
kind of the music comes in eventually, like soft music, nothing, not the normal theme song music. But I do like how they, emotion, emotion, sirens are coming, Jonathan, Joyce hugging, like the song's like climaxing, it's so emotional, and then credits, no music. You're just left with,
yeah.
and that's why we watched another episode that night.
Yeah, exactly. So we ended this episode asking all these questions. Did Hopper actually find something of note in the library newspaper articles? Did Joyce actually communicate with Will through the lights? Who or what did they find in the quarry? We have people saying that they think it's Will or that it looks like Will. Um, so we just don't know. But
What? Why was Hopper not the first one called to the scene? So many
that's true. I did
questions.
have that thought of like he shows up. Why would the chief of police be one of the last people to show up? Um, so all these questions, but we do know that we're moving on to episode 4. So come
Right
along
around the
with us.
corner. Yep. Don't don't worry. We will not take as long between future episodes because well, I just want to keep watching the episodes myself and have
Yeah.
something to talk about. So
Yeah. So here's your spoiler alert for the next episode. We will discuss what happened, and we'll just like here go scene by scene, episode by episode until we get to season 5. So come
yep.
along with us and join us.
We'll see you in episode 4. Bye.
Yeah.